everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and this week we're going to cover data visualization. So data visualization is another tool that we can use to visually represent data. So last week we learned about how we can crime map, so we learned how we can geocode data and then put those points using longitude and latitude on a specific map to visually show, wow, there's a lot of crime in that area. Okay, this week we're going to learn how to take the data, how to analyze the data like we've done in the past, and then how to create charts and pie charts and bar graphs using pivot tables off of that data. So that's the whole objective of this week's lessons, and then we're going to incorporate that into our final project using our data for our final project to create some data visualizations to put into our PowerPoint. So the first thing we're going to do is on Tuesday we're going to cover data visualization, creating pivot tables using the New York Police Department arrest data for 2019. Now this isn't the full data set. The full data set is on the internet. If you type in New York's NYPD arrest data, you'll actually come up to a really great website that has arrest data in CSV format or Excel format for the entire 2019 year. And I think you can find it for every year, but I think you can almost find it up through this year as well. The data is a large data set, so I've condensed that data set. So the data that you'll be using is right here for this assignment, and then the actual assignment is right here. Here is an example of what I would like your PowerPoint to look like, because we're going to take all of these charts and put them into a PowerPoint, and then here is the portal in which you're going to upload your PowerPoint here. So I want to just quickly go over the portal to show you what it looks like. So after we've created all of our pivot tables and then we've created our bar graph and our pie chart, you're then going to put all of that information into a PowerPoint, and then you're going to upload that PowerPoint here. And you can say create a pivot table and charts and graphs for crimes against public order, create a pivot table and charts and graphs for the level of crime, create a pivot table and charts and graphs for gender, create a pivot table, charts and graphs for race, create a pivot table, charts and graphs for age range. Then you're going to have a title slide with your name. Of course, that's your first thing that you should have, is the title slide with your name. The example does not have a name, but your name needs to be included. And then you're going to upload your PowerPoint to Canvas. Okay, so your presentation is going to have a significant amount of slides. Okay, so it's going to have a pivot table, and then it's going to have a pie chart, and I'm going to add these in, a pie chart and a bar graph for crimes against public. So there's actually 3 slides just right here. Okay, so I'm going to actually put this in here, that each one of these alone is 3 slides. Okay, this is 3 slides because it's going to be the pie chart. Okay, so you're going to have a pie chart, and then you're going to have a bar graph, okay, for each one of these, and you're going to include a copy of your pivot table. Okay, so each one of these is going to have a copy of your pivot table, and so each one of these is going to have 3 slides attached with it. Okay, so 3 slides again, and I will go back and edit all of this in a couple minutes, but that's going to have, so you're going to have a significant amount of slides for this presentation, because you need to make sure you have all of this information in your PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so I'm going to show you right now what we're going to do. So I've downloaded I've downloaded all of the data. So here's the data from the portal. So if I'm here, we're going to be right here, and I am going to, where am I? I am right here. So this is the data. So when I hit download, this is what opens. And then when I hit download for the, sorry, I have so many things open. When you download for the actual instructions, here is the instructions, okay? And this is what the instructions look like. So here's the instructions for what we're doing today. So right here is the data, and as I said before, I have condensed this data down for you. So this only contains data from January 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2019. And you can see here, here's the data. So we have the arrest data key, we have the arrest date, we have a PD code, we have the description, we have the offense, the offense description, we have the law category, we have the arrest bureau, we have the age group. And notice here, because I do ask you to do age groups, that the age groups are a little bit different than what we've been doing. We've been doing like ranges, but the ranges are already here. So this is really easy for you. You do not need to do COUNTIFs. You can just do COUNTIF, but just make sure that you have the correct range here, like 25-44 in COUNTIF is what you're going to put in. Okay, and then you have your sex, and then you have the race here. In the original data, there's actually also longitude and latitude data included over here, so we potentially could map this data as well. So here are the instructions. So the first thing is it gives you a couple little screenshots of how to create a pivot table. And I'm going to do that for you right now, okay? And you'll see down at the bottom of the data, I've included property crimes. This is the violent crimes pivot table as an example of what a pivot table should look like, but I'm going to show you right now and walk you through as well. You can see crimes against public order. I've already kind of started this for you. You'll just need to do the COUNTIFs over here. Gender is blank because you'll need to create a gender data analysis part to make the pivot table. Then there's race. You're going to need to create the data analysis first before you create it, and then the age range before you create the pivot table. So you'll see here, I'm going to start with property crimes to show you what to do. So right now I've already done the property crimes for you. You're going to highlight the property crimes, and you can see I use COUNTIF to do this. And I created this little data analysis, and then what I'm going to do is hit insert, and then I'm going to hit pivot table, and you'll see here I told the range, and I told it I would like you to make a new worksheet. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit OK, and as you can see down here pops up a new sheet, and of course I want to label this because I want property crimes, and I spelled property wrong, of course. Property crimes pivot table. Okay, property crimes pivot table. And then over here, you'll see that the pivot table fields show up for me. So you see a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to drag property crimes, and I would like to put this in the rows across. And then I also would like to put the number of incidents in the value. So it's actually going to give me a sum, a grand total of the number of incidents. And I know you can just use the sum button, but this is just going to make our graphs look a little bit different. So this is why we like to use pivot table. It sums up all the data for you. So you can see here I have the row labels. So if I clicked on here, it tells me the labels, and then I have the number of incidents. So this is very simple. That's how you create a pivot table. So for property crimes, I just created a pivot table. Then for violent crimes, I've actually already created the pivot table for you. So all you're going to need to do is make the graphs from this. You're going to need to do crimes against public order. So you're going to need to do two steps. Number one, you need to fill in the data using COUNTIF, and then you're going to need to create a pivot table. You're going to need to do the same thing for gender, so you're going to need to do the data analysis using COUNTIF, then create a pivot table. You're going to need to do the same thing for race, do the data analysis, then create the pivot table. Then you're going to do the other thing for range. After you've created and done all the data analysis and created the pivot table, then you're going to go back and create the graphs and the charts for the stuff. So here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to show you how to create a simple pie chart. So I'm going to go back and highlight the information again, and I am going to create insert, and I'm going to say insert pie chart. So I have all these options here. I have 2D, 3D. You may not have this depending upon if you're using Office 365 or if you're using Excel. Okay, so you just do 2D, and you can see a pie chart showed up for me. And then it says the sum, the number of incidents, the total, and of course I want to label this as property. Oops, oh my goodness, I just did that. So let me do insert chart again, and I'm going to say pie chart, and I'm going to go here, and in here I'm going to say double click, and I'm going to say property crimes, because you always want to make sure that you have everything labeled properly. And then over here, if I want to change any of the style, colors, or charts, I can do that. Another important thing I think is important is that we put percentages on here. So we could do this is that we can click here and put percentages. So if you look here, and then I like to always drag, because they put these percentages in really odd spots, and it makes it really hard. But this is really a great way for people to see the percentage of property crimes that have taken place. The other thing here is, if you'll notice, this says 0%, and this is this is not arsons. This is arsons, and it says 0%. And one important thing here is that it actually isn't 0%. We know 62 of them have showed up. So one of the issues with this is the fact that this this number right here is not showing up as it's showing up as 0%, and that has an issue because it really isn't 0%. And so you may want to change this to the actual percentage, and you could do this by calculating 62 into the 2369, but it is close to 0%, but it really isn't 0%. So just for this exercise, I'm okay with you leaving it at 0%, although if you're going to show this to somebody outside, you probably want to type in the real percentage, and you can of course do that by dividing 62 by 23,139 and getting the very small percentage, and then you can actually click on this and type in the actual percentage if you would like to do that, and that way you could do that. The other thing that you could do is from this data, I also would like you to create a bar graph. And here's what we're going to do for bar graph. You can create a 2D or a 3D bar graph, and you could see both of them show up here. So you can drag them to other parts and then keep them there, because you're going to then copy and paste those into your PowerPoint presentation. So all of the information you need for your PowerPoint is right here. If you would like to make one slide with all of it, no, I'm not even going to give you that option. Have 3 slides. So slide 1 should say property crimes, and then you should have the data, and then the next slide you should have as your bar graph, okay, or your property crimes. So one should have your bar graph, one slide, one should have your pie chart, and then one should have your data. So you're going to have 3 slides for each one of these pivot tables that you're going to create. So that's a lot of slides, but once you've created the data, it's really easy then to copy and paste that into your PowerPoint presentation. Don't forget your title slide on your PowerPoint presentation. And I hope this helped you a little bit be able to do this. So you can see here, you can see arsons barely shows up again. Now, if we did make these value axes smaller, we would be able to show arsons, the smaller percentage of arsons. But you can see here, there's really cool ways you can do this. I like this one. It shows you the amount of the property crimes that are there. And of course, you can make this bigger, that you're going to copy and paste in. But you always want to make sure that you have the property crimes there, and then the sum of the number of incidents. So you can see it's a really great way for you to create these pivot tables and then to put the data into a visual format. So this is data visualization. I'm hoping that this video helped you be able to follow the instructions, and then I will update that portal so you know the exact amount of slides that you should have. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. As always, I ask you to reach out well before the due date so that I can help you navigate whatever problems you may be having with this exercise. So we'll be doing this on Tuesday and Thursday this week. Thursday we'll be looking at marijuana data. Okay? Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.